Have you ever helped a stranger, not knowing that one small moment would change your life forever? It was an ordinary morning. The sun had just begun to rise, spilling golden light over the park. Birds sang in the distance. Trees stood tall and still. The world felt quiet, almost like it was holding its breath. He sat alone on a wooden bench near the old oak tree. Same place, same time, every day. People walked past him, some jogging, others walking dogs. No one paid him any attention. That's how he liked it. He wore a faded green jacket. His boots were worn out, his beard a little gray. He didn't smile much, but he watched. He always watched. But after a few minutes, the crying didn't stop. It only got worse. At most, he was just a quiet man at the park. Her shoulders shook. She was crying, alone, no parent in sight. His knees cracked a little. He walked over, careful and calm, not wanting to scare her. He bent down, kept some distance, and spoke gently. But today was different. He noticed something out of place. A small girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, sat on the edge of the sandbox, wiping her face. The man didn't move at first. He waited. Maybe someone would come. Maybe she'd stop, eyes filled with tears. She said nothing, just stared at him like she didn't know whether to run or stay. Still no one noticed her. No one stopped. But he did. Not close, just near enough to show her she wasn't alone. She didn't speak, but her shoulders relaxed a little. A tiny sign. She felt safer. He stood slowly. "Hey, are you okay?" The girl looked up. Her face was red. "I went to throw something away. Now I can't find him." "It's gonna be okay," he said. "We'll figure it out. You're not alone." She didn't answer. But this time she didn't cry either. "It's all right," he said softly. "I'm not gonna hurt you. You just looked sad. We'll wait there. You might come back." Still no reply. But she didn't move away. That was enough. For the first time in a long time, Mark felt something inside him stir. A purpose. A reason. We sat on the grass a few feet from her. People walked by. Some glanced at them. Some gave him strange looks. An old man with a child, but no one asked. No one helped. "I used to come here when I was little," he said. "The swings were my favorite." The girl looked at the swings. "You like chocolate?" "My name's Mark," he said. She blinked. Then, almost like a whisper, she replied, "I'm Lily." Lily looked at him for a long moment, then whispered, General, I think." Mark's eyes didn't show shock, but his heart skipped. A general's daughter, alone in a park. Something wasn't right. But he didn't ask questions. He didn't press her. Right now, she needed calm, safety. He could be that, even if just for a little while. "My daddy's in the army too," smiled just a little. "That's a nice name, Lily." She looked down again, her nose. "I lost my driver." "Your driver?" he asked. "When I was in the army, we used to trade chocolate bars for extra food." She nodded. He was talking on the phone. Mark glanced around. No one seemed to be looking for a child. Strange, how fate connected him to Lily's father. And what happened when the general finally found out. Mark stood and offered her his hand. "Come on, let's go sit on the bench." Lily took his hand. Hers was tiny and cold. They sat together on the bench. Minutes passed. Mark ignored them. Instead, he pulled a candy bar from his jacket pocket. She nodded shyly. He broke it in half and gave her a piece. She took it, said a soft thank you. "You're welcome," he said. Her eyes widened. "You were a soldier." He nodded. "A long time ago." "Did you fight in wars?" He smiled, a bit sad. "But I like quiet places better now," Mark paused. "Really?" She nodded. And in that small moment, something powerful began. Not loud, it's not heroic, but real. Stick around till the end of this video to find out who Mark really was. You won't want to miss what comes next. Before Mark was the quiet man on a park bench, he was someone else. Someone the world once cheered for, and then forgot. Born in a small town, raised by a single mother, he was tough, even as a boy. Others joined for money. Mark joined because he had nowhere else to go. But once inside, he found purpose, discipline, a kind of peace in the noise. His name became known. Not to the public, but in the right circles. Not because he wanted to be, but because he had to be. Life didn't hand him things. He had to earn them. His full name was Mark R. Harlan. At 18, he joined the army some men joined for adventure. He wasn't loud or flashy. He didn't brag. He just did what needed to be done, again and again. By 25, he was already respected. Not for words, for actions. When missions went sideways, Mark stayed calm. When men panicked, he took the lead. When others doubted, he moved forward. One mission changed everything. It was overseas. Details still haunt him. After that mission, he was given a medal. A short ceremony, some claps, a salute, then back to silence. A rescue gone wrong. Enemy fire. Confusion, even in a child's eyes. And when he saw her sitting alone in the sandbox, he didn't see a little girl lost in the park. So one day he walked away. The team was pinned down in a small village. No way out. But Mark found a way. He carried 2 wounded soldiers on his back, through gunfire, smoke, and debris. He didn't know this small act of kindness would bring the past back to him in a way he never expected. He refused to leave them behind. That day, he saved 6 men, including one high-ranking officer no one expected to survive. Mark never knew his name. Fixed things for neighbors. Helped at the shelter, walked the park every day. Same bench, same path. He just knew the face bloody, pale, barely breathing. Time passed. The medals didn't help with the nightmares, the long nights, the weight on his shoulders. No goodbye, no final speech. He just left the army and started a quiet life. People in the city didn't know who he was. He didn't tell them. He took small jobs. He watched people live their lives, watched children grow up, watched the seasons change. But inside, he still carried the war. Not in anger, just in silence. He didn't need anyone to thank him. He didn't want praise, because in just a few minutes a black car would arrive. He just wanted peace. That's why he noticed Lily. Because when you've seen pain, real pain, you'll learn how to spot it in others. He saw someone asking for help, without saying a word, just like he used to. He didn't know she was the daughter of the man he once saved. He just knew she needed someone. And for Mark, that was enough. While they sat on the bench, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Connection. The way Lily looked at him reminded him of something he'd have forgotten. That even broken people can still give light. Even those who feel forgotten still matter. As they waited, the sun rose higher. The air grew warmer. Lily started to relax. She asked him about the army, about his boots, about why he always came to the park. He answered every question with simple words. No drama. No stories of war. Just small truths. I come here because it's quiet, he said. Lily nodded. Like quiet too. They smiled. A small, gentle moment. No one noticed, but something was healing in both of them. Mark didn't need the world to see it, but fate had other plans, and everything would change. They sat in silence, Mark and Lily, side by side on the bench. The birds kept singing. The wind kept blowing. But the world felt still. She looked better. Her tears had dried. Her hands rested in her lap, no longer clenched. She wasn't smiling. She broke the silence. Do you have kids? Mark paused. That question hit harder than she knew. But she wasn't scared anymore. Mark glanced at her now and then. His children are like that. They feel more than they know. New. Not the kind you wear to a city park. That was enough. No, he said softly. Never got the chance. Not. She nodded like she understood, even if she didn't. She looked down at her shoes. They were expensive, Mark noticed. Lily, he said gently, are you sure your driver was just on a call? Or did something happen? She looked up. Her lips trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, then stopped. Mark leaned in, careful not to scare her. You're safe now. I promise. Whatever it is, you can tell me. She looked away and whispered something so quietly, he almost missed it. He got mad. I dropped his phone. Mark's eyes narrowed. Mad how? I didn't want to call Daddy. He gets worried. He's already so busy. She hesitated, then said, he shouted. Told me to get out of the car. Then he drove off. Mark's chest tightened. That wasn't a driver on a phone call. That was someone unfit to protect a child. She didn't scream. She didn't panic. She found a bench. She waited. She hoped someone kind would notice. And someone did. The screen had cracks, but it still worked. "Want me to call someone?" he asked. "No, he'll find me." "Are you sure?" She nodded again. "My daddy always knows." Then Lily asked, "Why are you always here?" But he didn't show anger. Stayed calm. "But you weren't quiet today." "No," he said. "Not today." And she said something that stopped him cold. "You're like my daddy." He blinked. "How? Okay," he said. "Thanks for telling me. But I think the army did just fine without me." "I didn't know what to do," she said. Mark nodded slowly, even if they're only 8 years old. He looked at her again, something in her face. Her strength felt familiar. It's almost like déjà vu. Then it hit him. Her eyes. "Your daddy's in the army, right?" At the far end of the park, a black car was rolling toward them. Slow, quiet, tinted windows. Not a normal ride for a lost child. Mark stood without thinking, not from fear, from instinct. 2 men stepped out in clean suits, serious faces, earpieces. They scanned the park. One of them pointed, the other nodded. They were coming straight for Lily. Mark gently placed himself in front of her, just in case. The 2 men stopped. Same calm, same fight. But that couldn't be. "Yeah," she said proudly. "He's a general. But he always says I should be strong. So I tried to be strong." Mark looked at her, really looked. Then he saluted. Mark didn't move, didn't speak. But his gut told him something big is about to happen. Mark knew in that moment something inside him had shifted. Not in a loud way, not in a life-changing way. It's just a small click, like a key turning in a rusty lock. This little girl had more courage in her than some adults. Mark didn't ask more questions. She'd said enough. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an old, worn-out phone. She shook her head. They sat there for a few more minutes. Mark smiled faintly, because people forget the quiet ones. "I guess I like being one of them." She tilted her head. "You look at people the same way, like you already know everything, but you don't say it." Mark stared at the trees in front of them. That was the first time in years someone saw him that clearly. And it came from a child. "Bet he misses you," she added. "Who? The army?" He chuckled. "Maybe," she smiled. The first real smile he'd seen from her. Sometimes the right person finds you when you least expect it. They were the same as a man he once pulled out of a burning convoy. Could it? Before he could ask anything, Lily sat up straighter. "There they are," she said. Mark followed her gaze. Then, one of them looked at Mark, and his face changed. His eyes widened. His posture stiffened. The man's salute froze the air around them. Mark didn't return it. Not yet. He wasn't used to that anymore. Not out here. Not in the quiet life he had built. The other man, younger and sharper, stepped forward. "Sir, is this your child?" Mark shook his head and looked down at Lily. She was calm. She stood beside him without fear. "She's not mine," Mark said. "She said she lost her driver." The younger man tapped his earpiece. "We have her. She's safe." Then he looked back at Mark again. "Did you stay with her this whole time?" "I did." The 2 men exchanged a look. Respect, relief, and maybe something more, recognition. Mark stepped aside so they could approach Lily. She smiled at them, but then turned back to Mark. "Thank you," she said softly. He gave a quiet nod. "You're welcome, Lily." One of the men knelt beside her. "Your father's on his way. He's very worried." Lily nodded. "He always is." They gently led her toward the car. She didn't resist. But before she climbed in, she looked back one more time. "Are you going to stay?" she asked. For a while, Mark hesitated. She smiled. "Good. Still." Then she climbed in. The door closed behind her. Mark sat back down on the bench, just like before, quiet. But everything had changed. People around the park had noticed the car, the suits. The girl whispers started. Curious eyes watched. A few parents looked at Mark with confusion, maybe even suspicion. That's how the world worked now. A man alone with a child? Even if he helped, some people always assumed the worst. But Mark didn't care. He'd seen worse than judgment. Then something unexpected happened. A lot of people would have walked past her. The younger man came back. alone. He approached the bench slowly. Respectfully, sir. Do you have a minute? Mark didn't look up. Go ahead. The man stood beside him. I just wanted to say, thank you. For what you did? Mark shrugged. It wasn't much. The man shook his head. It was you stayed with her. You kept her calm. You did the right thing. Mark finally looked up, but I didn't. We've studied your missions. Some of us owe our careers to what you did. No, sir, you didn't. No cameras, no medals. Just helping a child. A short silence followed. Then the man said something that made Mark's breath catch. I know who you are. If you ever need anything, please let us know. Mark's eyes narrowed. Do you? Yes, sir. Mark Harlan, former Master Sergeant. Special Forces. Honorably discharged 10 years ago. Silver Star. Mark didn't move. Been a long time since anyone said that name. The man nodded. Mark said nothing. But here you are, the man added, on a park bench. Mark looked out at the trees. I didn't do it for thanks. I know. That's what makes it matter. Not pride. He offered a small card. Mark took the card, but didn't promise anything. The man nodded once more. The general will be here in a few minutes. Mark didn't ask who. He didn't need to. He already knew. It had to be him. Then at the black car. Then at the card in his hand. The face he carried out of the fire. The man whose life he saved. The one Mark never saw again. Until now. No. Just someone who needed a little help. He felt something deep in his chest. Not fear. Wait. The kind that only comes from things left unfinished. The man walked back toward the car, leaving Mark alone again. The air felt heavy. Not with danger, but with history. And in that stillness, something strange happened. A woman walked by with her son. She paused, looked at Mark. Her face softened. Was that your granddaughter? She asked kindly. Mark smiled faintly. She smiled back. That's rare these days. She walked off. And for the first time in years, Mark felt something warm settle in his chest. Not applause, not recognition, just quiet thanks. And that was enough. But fate wasn't finished yet, because the car doors were opening again. And a man in full military uniform was stepping out, eyes locked straight on Mark. A face from the past, a moment 10 years in the making. He walked with purpose. Polished shoes clicked against the pavement. Metals glinted in the sun. His coat was perfect. His posture sharp as ever. But it was his eyes that said the most. They weren't the eyes of a stranger. Not today. Mark stayed seated. He didn't flinch, didn't smile, just watched. Because deep inside, he already knew. The general stopped a few feet in front of him. Tall, strong. Yet, for a moment, he looked almost unsure. Mark looked up slowly. Neither man spoke right away. Then the general broke the silence. I knew it was you, he said. Mark's voice was steady. Took you long enough. I never thought I'd see you again, he said. Not like this. You haven't changed much. The general let out a breath, half laugh, half disbelief. A look only men with war in their past can understand. Then the general's face turned serious. My daughter, he said, Lily. She told me what happened. Neither did I, Mark said. The general stepped closer. Mark shrugged. You have. That uniform looks heavier now. They both shared a brief, knowing look. Mark nodded. She's brave. Smart, too. She said you stayed with her, kept her calm, protected her. Mark looked away. Didn't do much. Just sat with her. That convoy in the valley. Ambush. Fire. Screams. Mark didn't say a word. It carried me out. The general continued. Half my team was down. I couldn't move. I remember your voice, calm in the chaos. No, the general said, voice firm. You did everything. Heavy. Honest. The general's voice softened. She doesn't know who you are. She doesn't need to, Mark replied. But I do, the general said. I remember. There was silence again. He paused. But here in this small circle of memory and gratitude, time stood still. It was 10 years ago. I was doing my job, Mark said quietly. You did more than that, the general said. You saved my life, a real one this time. For what you did. For today. For everything. Mark shook his head. I don't need it. Mark still didn't react. And she always wanted to know what kind of man stayed with her when she was scared. Mark looked down at the box, but inside, the memories played like a movie. Smoke, blood, a weight on his back, bullets slicing through the air. He remembered every second. You disappeared after that, the general said. Left the service. No goodbyes, no medals. Wasn't looking for any, Mark replied. The general looked down. We searched for you. I wanted to thank you. I wanted to. Mark cut in, gently. You don't owe me anything. I do, the general said firmly. Every morning I wake up, every time I see my daughter, I owe it to you. Mark looked away again. He would have done the same. Maybe, the general said. But I didn't have to, because you were there. You have my word, the general replied. It was a pause. A quiet wind blew through the trees. Children's laughter echoed in the distance. The general took something from his pocket. Small box. Clean, polished. He turned. He held it out. Mark didn't take it. What's that? He asked. A medal, the general said. The general stepped closer. Then take it for her. It's for Lily. Someday she'll know. Then slowly he took it. Not for pride, not for honor, but for her. Thank you, the general said. Not just for that day, but for this one. Mark stood. The two men shook hands. Firm, strong, silent. It said more than words ever could. Then the general added, If there's ever anything I can do, there is, Mark said. The general raised an eyebrow. Be there for her, Mark said simply. That's all. Then Mark nodded once and turned to leave. No speeches, no parade. Just quiet footsteps walking away. But before he disappeared into the trees, the general sighed one last thing. Mark, you're not forgotten, the general said. Mark didn't smile, but he nodded, and that was enough. 2 days passed. The park was quieter than usual. Or maybe it just felt that way to Mark. He sat on his usual bench, just like always. Same boots, same jacket. But something inside him had shifted. He hadn't told anyone. He had no one to tell. Kept turning the moment over in his mind. The salute, the words, the medal, still unopened. The small black box sat tucked away in his drawer at home. Mark didn't care for medals. He never did. But this one was different. It had come not from a government, but from a man. A man whose daughter he had protected, just by being kind. That meant more than any ribbon. He took a sip from his coffee and looked out at the trees. Then he heard footsteps. Not fast, not loud, but familiar. Didn't expect you. He turned his head slightly, and there he was. No guards. Just a man in a gray coat walking down the path. The general. Out of uniform. No car. Mark gave a small nod. I figured you wouldn't, the general said. But I wanted to come anyway. He stopped beside the bench. Mind if I sit? Mark gestured to the empty space. Free country. The general sat down. He looked around the park like he was seeing it for the first time. I see why you come here, he said. It's peaceful. Mark nodded. Better than war zones. They sat in silence for a moment. Then the general said, She hasn't stopped talking about you. Mark blinked. Lily? Yes, the general replied. She said you didn't ask questions. You didn't panic. You just listened. She needed calm, Mark said. That's all. She said you made her feel safe, the general added. It's rare. Mark stared ahead. She's a strong kid. The general looked down at his hands. She asked me something last night. She wanted to know if I knew the man who helped her. Mark glanced at him. What did you say? I told her yes. I told her I knew him a long time ago, that he once saved my life. She should know that not all heroes wear the uniform forever. Mark stayed quiet. Who remind her what kindness and strength really look like. I didn't tell her everything, the general continued. Not yet, but I will. Maybe come by sometimes. She likes talking to you, and frankly, so do I. Are you asking me to be her babysitter? You don't have to, Mark said. I do, the general said firmly. She should know what real honor looks like. Mark finally turned to him. Why are you really here? The general hesitated, then said, To ask you something. That's the most hopeful maybe I've heard in years. Mark raised an eyebrow. My daughter needs people in her life who make her better. Mark leaned back. The general smiled. No, I'm asking you to stay in touch. Mark looked at him for a long moment. "I'm not used to people," he said. "You don't have to be," the general replied. "Just be yourself. That's more than enough." Mark let the words hang in the air, then finally said, "Maybe." The general smiled. They both chuckled quietly. Mark reached into his jacket and pulled out the card the younger officer had given him. He handed it back. "I don't need favors," he said. "I just needed that little girl to be okay." The general accepted the card without argument. A little girl holding his hand. A big tree behind them. "You gave her more than okay," he said. "You gave her trust." They sat together a while longer, talking about nothing and everything. Life, time, the quiet after the storm. When the general finally stood up to leave, he extended his hand. Mark shook it. "Thank you," the general said again. "For what?" Mark asked. "For being the man you are." The general turned and began to walk away, then paused. "Oh, she drew you something," he said, reaching into his coat. He handed Mark a folded paper. Crayon drawings. A man in a green jacket. Underneath, in shaky handwriting, it read, "My friend Mark? He made this scary day better." Mark stared at it for a long time. The general was gone now. But the paper stayed in Mark's hands. He folded it carefully, slipped it into his jacket pocket, and for the first time in a very long while, he smiled. But this story isn't over yet, because the final chapter isn't about medals or handshakes. It's about what Mark does next, and the quiet power of a man who asks for nothing, but gives everything. Stay tuned. The story faded from the minds of strangers. The black car never returned. No more guards. No more surprises. But Mark, he kept coming to the park. Same bench, same boots, same quiet steps along the path. But something inside him was no longer the same. He had always believed the world had forgotten him, that everything he did, every mission, every risk, every scar, was buried in time. He never asked for thanks. He never wanted it. But now, he had a drawing in his pocket, crayon lines and stick figures. A message written in a child's hand. My friend Mark. He made the scary day better. Not out of pride, but because it reminded him why he mattered. Why he still had something to give. He looked at it every morning. Not to the world. To someone. Sometimes she'd run up to him with a new story, a drawing or a smile so wide it erased years from his face. To Lily, he didn't see her every day, but sometimes she came with her father. They'd wave from afar. They didn't talk about the day she cried in the park. They didn't need to. They talked about squirrels and dogs and swings and stars. And for Mark, that was enough. People still walked by him without knowing who he was. He didn't stop them. He didn't explain. He was just a man on a bench. But every so often he'd hear a whisper. Isn't that the guy who helped the general's daughter? He just sat, watched the world, and smiled quietly to himself. Or, my friend told me he used to be a soldier, a real one. Mark never corrected them, because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't invisible. Not to everyone. One afternoon, Lily handed him something new, a small notebook. What's this? Mark asked. It's for your stories, she said. You never talk much. But I know you have a lot in there. She pointed to his heart. Mark opened the notebook. The first page had her handwriting again. Dear Mr. Mark, you are my hero. He blinked slowly, said nothing. She hugged him and ran back to her father. The general just nodded, silent thank you from one man to another. That night, for the first time in years, Mark sat down at his kitchen table. He took a pen, opened the notebook, and began to write about one mission. Long ago, where a man he didn't know had bled out in his arms. Not for others. For her. For himself. Stories about dusty roads and lost maps. About soldiers who never came back. About quiet victories and loud fears. The same man whose daughter now drew him smiling pictures and called him friend. He didn't write everything. Some things stayed locked inside. But page by page, word by word, he felt lighter. Not healed. Not whole, but human. One morning, he passed by the local bakery. A woman outside said, You're the one from the park, right, the soldier? Mark nodded. She handed him a warm roll. Thank you for what you did. He almost said it was nothing, but stopped. Instead, he said, You're welcome, and kept walking. He was never asking to be seen, yet showing up anyway, because he had learned something. Sometimes, the loudest kind of strength is silence. Sometimes the bravest thing a person can do, stay. And sometimes, the greatest kind of valor. So if you ever see a man sitting alone on a bench, share it with someone who still believes in quiet heroes. And remember, one kind action can echo louder than 1,000 words. Don't assume he's no one. He might be someone who gave everything and asked for nothing. Someone like Mark. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment below. This was the story of Silent Valor. But maybe it's also the story of someone you know.